Welcome to episode 5 of the Soulful Menopause podcast. Today I am thrilled to be speaking with Judy Arazoza, a midlife fitness professional. We chat about why exercise should be done differently at menopause, how to stay motivated, and lots of other juicy content to help you feel fit, healthy, and fabulous in this next cycle of your life. Welcome to the Soulful Menopause podcast. Discover how to transform the chaos of menopause into vibrant health and a soulful life you'll love. I'm Sally Love, natural nutritionist and soul wisdom coach. I want you to experience a soulful menopause that'll guide you into the best years of your life. Welcome, gorgeous goddess. I'm so excited for today's interview with Judy Arazoza. Now, exercise is of vital importance, especially when we enter menopause. If we want to break out of the old beliefs that menopause brings on old age and health issues, and if we want to live vibrant, healthy, happy lives where we can just run around making the best of what life has to offer us, and if we want to live our soul's desire, then exercise is an absolutely vital piece of the jigsaw puzzle. It simply can't be ignored. At this time of life, there's no, I'll get round to it later attitude. We have to address our exercise now, and we need to do it differently than we've done it in the past. Judy is a certified fitness trainer and nutrition coach. She owns Grateful Fitness. I love that name. And it's a boutique fitness business based in New York State for women over 40. She runs classes in person and has classes and personal training available online. So no matter where in the world you are, you can benefit from her wisdom. Now, quoting from her website, Judy says that if you're thinking, I'm just doing the same things I've always done, but I'm getting less and less fit, and it's just getting harder and harder, well, Judy gets you, and she says how much harder things got for her after she hit 40. She says as her 40s came and went, she realized the importance of learning about hormones and hormonal nutrition. Exercising and eating right alone just wasn't cutting it for her, and also for many of the women that she was working with. So that led her to what she believes was the final piece of what Judy calls the Trinity, mind, body, and spirit. Judy says that a lot of times the biggest thing stopping us from being successful is what's in between our ears, the thoughts that hold us back, and we justify our bad habits and we tell a negative story about who we are and what we can achieve. Using the 3 keys of mind, body, spirit, Judy started Grateful Fitness, and she dedicates her business to not only teach women how to be fit, but how to use a spirit of gratefulness to stay that way. She says living the Grateful Fitness way is based on owning our uniqueness, feeling worthy, and embracing our imperfections. Now, as you can probably tell, Judy and I talk about a lot of juicy stuff in this episode. So please do stay tuned to the end, because I've created a summary for you so that you can remember what you've learned from this episode. This will help you to apply the 1 or 2 things that you resonated with, so that you don't just listen to this episode, but you begin incorporating new healthy habits into your life. Plus, Judy has an amazing giveaway for you too, and the details of that are at the end of our interview and in the show notes. So, without further ado, let's get on with the interview. So I'm absolutely thrilled to speak with you today, Judy, and I know that you have got so much wisdom to share with us. So what I thought we could do is just begin with you. And I wondered if you could let us know a little bit about you and what led you to helping women get fit and healthy.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on today. I'm honored to be here talking to you, Sally. And honestly, I think of myself as the mom next door, and who just happened to figure out over the years how to stay fit and get fit. And so there was a lot of trial and error, which was fine. I began my career in healthcare and then stayed at home to raise my kids. But along the way, when I was raising my kids, I read anything and everything I could get my hands on about fitness and nutrition. And I used myself as my own guinea pig along the way. And then eventually that led to my business and some professional bodybuilding, and then retirement from that. And now my focus is women over 40.
Fantastic. And I absolutely love your business name, Grateful Fitness. And I just wondered if you could talk about why you chose that name.
It came about, I was actually having a client appreciation event. And I looked around my backyard and it was filled with women. And I had this, I know it sounds corny, but this feeling I was just overcome with, looking around like, these women have come to me. They've trusted me. They're grateful for every workout. And a lot of times at the end of the workout, I will say to them, now thank yourselves for coming. And just remember, because sometimes when you walk in the door, you might be a little apprehensive, or maybe you didn't want to come today. But, at the end, you're always grateful. And we're always grateful for when we've done a good workout or eaten a good meal and gotten up from the table and moved on and done something else. And so right then and there, I just acquired the name Grateful Fitness. We have an official business name, but that's our doing business as name, and that's what we're known for.
Well, I love it, because you don't usually put grateful and fitness together, do you, in the same sentence?
Yeah. It's true. And a lot of times I talk about that. That's kind of, I don't want to say, one of my points to women is it's a privilege to work out, and just think of it that way. And you will identify yourself as having the privilege to work out, not punishing yourself to work out,
Yes, I love that. Absolutely love that. Because, I know that working out can sometimes be seen as punishment and hard work. And I think a lot of people can actually put it off and, just say that they're too tired or they don't have enough time, or they think that exercise is sort of like where you've got to push hard, go for the burn, keep going through the pain and the discomfort, and it's such hard work. And I think that can be so draining and so self-sabotaging, because people then just aren't inclined to go to the gym or do any exercise, because it seems like this great big mountain that they've got to overcome in their brains, with their whole thinking about it before they even get to do the exercise.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think people have to remember, you have to find someone who's going to maybe hold your hand a little bit and just, take baby steps. If you're not ready to do squats with weight, then you learn how to do a squat properly without a weight, and you work up from there, and you make these little milestones along the way. And pretty soon you're squatting with a heavy barbell, not overnight, but it's just, I don't know. It's when we look at it that way and break it down into parts, just like anything else in life, you don't graduate college all at once. It takes a while, 4 or 5 years, right? You don't raise a child in one day, and you don't get fit in one day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point. Good point. So I'm really interested to know, particularly obviously for my listeners, is what exercise is really good for us at menopause, and should we be exercising differently than we did, when we were in our 30s?
Well, I'll answer the second question first, and that's an absolute yes. It should be different exercise than what you did in your 30s. Although you can start in your 30s I would say it's probably much different than what you did in your 20s, what we did in our 20s. And the reason is because, and you know this, we begin when our hormones change and our body ages, we stop making muscle at rest. So as we start to grow, from a child to an adult in our early adult years, we have significant amount of growth hormone and we're making muscle. Once we hit 30, and then, and it's maybe people don't notice it in their 30s, but we're losing muscle. And so if we're not doing anything to stimulate that muscle, it's going to get smaller and weaker. And then all of a sudden, people get to menopause very often, somewhere it's different for everyone. But they will notice that, geez, I used to be able to do X, Y, and Z. I can't now. Even climbing a flight of stairs, it's endurance and strength. And so the way that we approach training is, number one, is we have to maintain strength. And a big part of strength, people don't realize, it's not just, it is weight bearing, but we need strength in our posture so that we can be upright. You can have lots of problems that can happen just from having poor posture, even breathing problems. So
yeah,
people don't think of it, but resistance training is the number one priority in exercising for women over 30.
Okay. I know that we need to be more aware of bone health at menopause because estrogen actually protects our bones. So once we start losing that estrogen, we are more prone to osteoporosis. And so I just wondered whether there are certain exercises that we can do to actually reduce our risk of osteoporosis.
Absolutely. And that is any weight-bearing exercise, but it's more than body weight. So it's weight-bearing resistance training. So while I think like swimming and water aerobics and that kind of resistance training is wonderful, you need to be literally on dry land with weight in your hand, putting stress on your muscles and bones, and then to keep that strength. Because when you are exercising with weight, you're going to put it's going to be little microscopic trauma that happens. All right. And then when that happens, your body says, oh, well, we have to repair that microscopic trauma. So your body responds by repairing it, and it actually can make you stronger than you were before. So that old phrase, use it or lose it, is absolutely true. So resistance training workouts, and I tell people you should really aim for 3 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay. And what does that resistance training workouts look like? Can you give us some examples of what those exercises actually involve?
So, well, I literally have hundreds of exercises that I'll do with women, and we work very hard on keeping a variety. We use something called periodization. I actually just wrote a blog post about that. So periodization is varying the amount of weight used, the number of sets, the number of reps, the amount of rest, and the actual exercises. So we might work a specific body part, but we might work it differently. And the reason we do that is your body, think of an endurance runner. An endurance runner becomes very efficient at running because they run repeatedly day after day after day. And so their goal as an endurance runner is to use less energy running the same race so that they don't get tired, or they can go longer and farther. Our goal in resistance training is to be very inefficient, because what we want is we want the muscles to work harder. Whereas if an endurance runner doesn't want their muscles to work harder, we want our muscles to work harder so that they never adapt, and then we're getting the benefits of that little micro trauma, and then we get the repair. So there's a little exception to that, like when I work with women on posture, and we cover posture training exercises every week in our membership and in our in-person programs. You do want to have endurance for your posture muscles because you want to be able, like I said, to have a nice, good, upright body that's not going to put you at risk for diseases and injuries.
Yeah, now that's an interesting point, because I think that
having the right posture, doing the exercise in the right way, the correct alignment is obviously very important to prevent any injuries, etc. So are there things that we can do to make sure that we are doing this correctly?
Well, if you're not knowledgeable and you're going to walk into a gym, the first thing I would say is do a little research and find a trainer who knows how to work with menopausal women. This is our population that we're talking to, because if you get, let's say you get some like 27-year-old bodybuilder guy who looks great, he or she, they don't understand what, even for all the reading they've done, they have not felt things like waking up a little slow and you have to like give your back a little time to wake up. All right, so you got to do some stretching, you got to do some deep breathing. You really need to find a trainer whose niche is midlife, because they have the experience, and they're going to they will have, there's so many different ways to train a body, and you want to learn from someone whose goals are your goals. You want to be safe while you're learning to lift heavy weights. You don't want to be flinging around. I mean, you take a 20-something-year-old and like, okay, we're going to do squats today. They'll get it pretty quick, right? But if you take someone who's 47 and has never squatted a day in her life, you have to go about that a whole different way. Even learning to get up and off the floor needs to be taught differently.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you raised a really important point there. As menopausal women, if we're going through, particularly through perimenopause, and maybe somebody's feeling really tired and achy, really just don't feel like doing any exercise, what can they do to actually stay motivated to exercise when they're feeling like that?
Sometimes I think if that's a real feeling, I would tell them, take the day off, go for a walk. Maybe there's something else going on. And this is where journaling can help, take a note of your body and say, why do I feel like this? Is it just because it's going to be hard and I don't want to be there? Most of the time, that's not the issue. A lot of times, maybe they had a bad experience in the gym, or they're just too sore. And a day like that, maybe you do need to take a walk or just do a little stretching or take a bath. And maybe you'll wake up tomorrow and you'll be like, okay, maybe I do have more energy,
Mm-hmm.
So I say listen to those voices in your head that tell you things like that, which is probably not what most trainers want to hear.
Well, no, I think that's a really good point, and it is really important to nurture your body. I talk about this all the time. Unless we're actually nurturing our body, we're listening to our bodies, you're going to be working against your body if you're not listening to that, and that's not going to get you anywhere but cause more stress, and then create more problems for yourself in the long run.
And then, right, you may be more susceptible if the flu's going around. Guess who's going to be susceptible, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're your body's trying to tell you something, if it's that strong a feeling. Obviously, if you hit the snooze alarm and you wake up and you're like, oh, okay, maybe that's not a big deal, and you're like, I'll be okay, give yourself like 15 minutes. Sometimes if you're not sure, if you don't know, then I'll say, come to workout. Give yourself 15 minutes. If you don't feel better after 15 minutes, and I tell women this all the time when they show up and they're like, I didn't sleep last night, or, they'll share something with me, privately, I'll say, okay, listen, here's the choice. You don't have to stay now if you don't want to. If you want to, you can give it 15 minutes. If you don't feel better after 15 minutes, just forget about it, chalk it up, to you needed a rest day and leave. And if you feel better after 15 minutes, if you don't even realize that 15 minutes have gone by and you're better, well, then you made the right choice and you can stay.
I love that, because I was going to ask you if sometimes we can self-sabotage, and take things too easily, go, oh, well, I'm listening to my body today and my body says no, where in fact your body is.
Yeah. We can tell ourselves any kind of story we want and we'll believe it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love that. I love that idea of just doing those 15 minutes just to see, how is your body responding to that, and then that helps to get over the self-sabotage that might be there. And usually once we've started, we actually enjoy it, don't we?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the things I've noticed with training for so long and for so many years is that I used to be able to hop into a workout and I would be like, oh, who needs a warm up and who needs a cool down, and I could get through the workout fine. Now we find it so important to just really start slow, and we start with some wonderful deep breathing and just some very gentle work, and then we move up into getting our heart rate up and getting that blood, our heart pumping, so we're getting circulation out to our muscles, and then we start the workout. That, I think, becomes very, very important for midlife women.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I was just wondering, because we were originally talking about bone health, and I just want to get back to that one moment, because I was just wondering if there are any exercises that are actually detrimental to bone health when we're in menopause.
Is there any exercise that's actually going to take bone density away?
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I can think of is overtraining with too much cardio and eating too little.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I can give you actually, in fact, on the same day, I knew of two women. These were not clients, but they were acquaintances, and they were both avid endurance runners and also both concerned about being thin.
Mm-hmm.
And it was thin was the word they used.
Mm-hmm.
On the very same day, they were both out for a run in different locations. They both fell and broke their arm. And one woman also broke her ankle. And they had an issue with bone density issues. And so I would say, and I know there's a whole movement of endurance runners who, also want to be very thin, because of course, then you can run faster. It's not a good prescription going forward, especially as you start to lose estrogen. So maybe they could get away with that in their 20s and 30s, but it's not going to work. And I have nothing against endurance training. In fact, I train marathoners, and I train half marathoners, and I train triathletes. And the reason they come to me is because they do want to have strong bones.
Mm-hmm. And that actually is something I wanted to talk about, and that's body image, because we enter menopause and our bodies start changing. And we can look in the mirror and think, oh, golly, I don't really like the way that my body is going. And we've talked about this for, a few decades now, about the terrible images that are out there in the media, about what you should look like. And, you just mentioned about, having cellulite, and that's normal, isn't it? And I just wondered if you could speak a little bit about body image, particularly later, in our midlife.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you're holding a healthy amount of body fat in your postmenopause, there's a good chance you're going to have a belly roll, and that's pretty normal. Mm-hmm. And so I think that is something that I hear a lot about from women. They're like, oh my gosh, where did this belly come from? And I said, well, it's from the hormones changing. It's okay. You do have to first look at the fat, at the other hormones, the non-sex hormones. Let's make sure your insulin and your cortisol, and that's probably a whole other podcast and topic. But even if they are in check and you're perimenopausal, menopausal, postmenopausal, you will carry more belly fat than you did earlier on in your life. And that's just a fact. So if you're at a healthy amount of body fat, you know what I say? This is keeping my bones strong. This is me at a healthy size, and you just have to embrace it. And the same thing with cellulite. Cellulite is very genetic. Some people will have more cellulite. It's elasticity of your skin connective tissue, for crying out loud. We have what we have, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And it needn't be something to look at and just think that it's negative.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I didn't always have that attitude. I had an attitude at times in my life where I was ashamed to have cellulite, and it took a lot of work to get over that.
So how did you overcome that?
I had to think about it and say, I would talk to myself. So I did this big like self-worthiness thing with myself. And in fact, worthiness has been my word of the year for 2018 and 2019. It's not you're worth it. In my earlier years, it would have been you're worth it to like maybe eat less and try to be thin. And now I'm like, you're worth it to own the body that you have. You have such a privilege to have gotten to this age, to be healthy. Every day I wake up and I'm grateful for the health that I have, that I'm not on any medicine, and I'm not bragging, but I think I invested in my health from a very early age, and I'm definitely, the dividends are paying out now.
Mm-hmm. And that's links back into, of course, your business name, Grateful Fitness.
It does. I tell you, that comes up every day. But I want to speak a little bit more to, I came across something in a speaker in 2017, and maybe some of your listeners know of him. His name is Les Brown, and he's a motivational speaker. And I was on Audible one day looking, and I came across a series of his lectures. And he goes through I wonder if I can remember him now. I haven't talked about him in a while. 5 little I call them motivational topics. But I actually patterned my group coaching programs for 2 years after these 5 motivational things. And the first thing, can I go through them?
Yes, please.
Because I think for women to believe about themselves that things like belly fat and cellulite are normal, this may help them.
Brilliant.
You can just stop me anytime you want. And this is taken directly from the teaching of Les Brown, which, like I said, I put my own spin on it. But he says, the first thing you have to do is understand that this is possible. It's possible for you to be healthy and to appreciate yourself and to establish healthy habits, in the gym, in the kitchen, being more active throughout the day. It's possible. Mm-hmm. And so I spent an entire week with these women on each of these topics. Then the next thing is to understand, yes, it's possible, but not only is it possible, it's necessary.
Yes.
Okay. This is just not like, okay, maybe I'll do this for a while and then I'll take up another hobby. This is necessary for your life going forward. So that's the second one. Now I'm totally going from memory here. Well, I'm going to go with it's hard, but I feel like that's number 4. It's hard. Yeah, it is hard. And especially when people are motivated and they go through like the first few weeks are great. And then what I say to them, they're looking at me, they're like, you didn't say it was going to be this hard. And I was like, yes, I did. And the honeymoon is over. This is like that point in the marriage where the honeymoon is over and you realize you actually have to work at it to reap the benefits. Mm-hmm. And you keep going.
Yeah.
And I really have forgotten the 5th point, but the last point is that you're worth it.
Yes.
And you are so worth it. You're in control of your life. Whatever you do now is going to pay you back later. Whatever habits you establish now, good, bad, or otherwise, are going to pay you back later. So I talk a lot about this is your investment. How do you want to invest? Do you want to blow it all at the amusement park like you were when you were 17 years old? Or do you want to invest in your health long term? It's like investing in your 401k for your health.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, you mentioned there about point number 3 about it being hard. And that just makes me think of motivation around exercise. And I know that sometimes people can go, right, I'm starting a new regime, and they're so pumped up about it and focused, and they know that they're going to achieve this. But then there always seems to be that drop off. Is there a certain sort of time frame when people tend to give up? And why is this, and what can we do about it?
It definitely. There is a drop off, and I just say you have to talk to yourself and say, is this what I want? What do I want long term? Do you want to be on the other side of this workout saying, I'm so happy I did it, I have no regrets? Do you want to be on the other side of that workout saying, I wish I'd gone to that workout, now it's so late, today, you can't take back today. right?
Mm-hmm.
It's cumulative, what we do and what we don't do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one thing I recommend to a lot of my clients is to make what I call a motivational poster. And you just get images from the internet of images that really speak to you, not just bland images, but something when you look at this image, it really gives you that boost of motivation. It makes you feel fabulous. It gives you that reason to continue. And I say just put them up on a poster-sized piece of card. You can go to the dollar store and get one for, $1, obviously.
Yeah, I love that idea.
Just get these pictures. And sometimes what I do is I get a photo of my face and I cut it out and I put it on somebody's amazing body.
Oh. I will share a client story with you. I have a client who keeps a photo of herself in a bikini on the beach. And although it's a younger photo, and I've actually talked to her about, not expecting to look exactly like that, but go ahead and definitely work towards the best version of you at this age.
Yes. And I think if we can tap into the emotion of that, that's where I feel we can keep our motivation up. Because if we can, for example, look at a motivational poster and then just go, wow, yes, I can really achieve this. And in fact, what I do, without going on to another topic altogether, is that I help people to look at that and imagine that they're there already, that they are already feeling that. And that certainly helped me tremendously with motivation around exercise. And I know that it has for a lot of my other clients too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Act like that person who is a regular exerciser. You act like a person who doesn't miss a workout, and that becomes your identity. Your identity is the story you tell it. So if you tell yourself the story, right? I'm a person who makes my workout 3 days a week. I'm a person who eats, healthy meals that are right for me. I don't diet jump. I know what's right for me. And if they don't, then they need to find someone who can help them learn how to tune into their own body and learn these things.
Yes, I love it. Live it. Live as
it.
if you are that person already.
Yeah. And I'm not saying fake it until you make it, because you're not faking it. You are adopting it. You are believing it. Oh, you have to believe.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was just wondering, what exercises are good for what? I mean, should we be mixing it up? I know that it's HIIT, isn't it, that's really popular at the moment. And then we've got yoga and swimming and weightlifting and running and, using the machines. And, what's your idea of what we should be doing, what we could be doing during menopause?
So I think any of those are good choices, but none of those are good as an exclusive exercise. So certainly swimming is great for your cardiovascular system. Any cardio is great for you, and you want to keep your heart strong. So we don't want to eliminate that altogether. HIIT can be very good, but HIIT can be very stressful. So for your audience, HIIT is high intensity interval training, and HIIT training is actually very hard to do for more than 20 minutes. So a typical HIIT workout would be something where you would warm up for 5 minutes. So you really have a high heart rate already. And then you're going to do some exercise that's all out maximal effort that you can't even do for more than 20 seconds. It could be a sprint, not on a treadmill. It could be a sprint on something self-propelled or outside, or some kind of a plyometric move, something like that. But it's not true HIIT unless you can't sustain it for any longer than the time given. And then the recovery, really, a true way to get benefit out of this, especially for older women, is to make your recovery 2 to 3 times what your work interval was. And I'll get a lot of flack from that, but I'll tell you what, if you're older, you need that recovery. You need to regenerate enough energy to be able to do the next interval. So younger people might not agree with that, but I think midlife women in particular, and really I do believe everyone, you need that recovery. And I know, and I did for years, like the true Tabata training is 20 seconds work, 10 seconds rest, it really isn't that effective. So
yeah, good point. Okay.
And it's mentally draining.
Yeah.
If you've got 2 to 3 times the rest of work, it might be mentally draining, but you definitely get that recovery, and you're kind of like I could listen to a story on tape, like an Audible book doing a HIIT workout, and I'll miss the 20 seconds maybe of the high intensity part, and I'll just go back and okay, rewind those 30 seconds, and then literally just walk around relaxing, listening to that story for the next minute, 40 seconds, and then go back and do it again.
Lovely.
Do it. Yeah.
I like that. Cool. I know that you help women with their boundaries around well-being. And so I was just wondering how you help busy women, fit exercise into their days. And I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that and how you help women with their boundaries around well-being.
I think so many women are caregivers, to either a significant other, children, extended family, parents, grandchildren. It's a very interesting age that we're in, right? Because sometimes many of those things can apply. And it can be very easy to rattle off a yes when people start sending text messages. And I turned my phone over, by the way, because there's a chain of text going on from my children, which I'm ignoring right now.
Perfect example.
It's very important for women to set a boundary and say, I need to do this for my well-being. I'm investing in my future health. I cannot miss a workout, for instance, to pick up somebody's dry cleaning, or I don't know, that just came out of my head, or whatever it is, or whatever your child or someone wants you to do. And you can say, I can help you later, but right now, these are my designated times for X, Y, and Z workouts, or for X, Y, and Z food prep, and this is what's going to be done at these times every week. And then we can talk about, extracurricular help afterwards. And, I had one woman who just couldn't get out of work on time. And I said, we talked, this client, I said, you need to go to work and tell people. I said, are you allowed to leave if you can leave? And she said, yes. I said, okay, so you need to let your colleagues know that you cannot stay late on Tuesdays, because Tuesday is your 6:00 class for weight training. And also on Thursday was her yoga class. And on Thursday's your yoga class. I said, that's just the way it is. If they need you to put in maybe a little extra time on Monday night and you're willing to do it, let them know. Or maybe someone else has their exercise class on Monday night and you can cover for each other. But it's a hard stop for you on Tuesdays to leave work and get here.
Yeah, and she's going to show up at work in a much better state. She's going to be more alert. She's going to have more energy. She's going to be feeling great. So, ultimately, her work is only going to improve by doing that. I mean, if she stayed at work the whole time and just worked her guts out and didn't exercise, she's going to be showing up in a totally different way.
Yeah. A big common thing, I can give you another example unless you want to move on.
No, please go. Yeah.
I have a lot of moms with kids, older kids, and they're like, Mom, can you drive me here? Mom, can you drive me there? And we talk about holding the boundary that I cannot drive you to school. There's a bus where we live. Everyone can get a bus if they need to. Cannot drive you to school on workout days, because number one, they reserve the time. And if they sign up and don't show, they've taken that time away from someone else, but they also let themselves down. This was their time. And, they're not going to get back to it. If they miss that window of opportunity, it's gone. Like investing, if you didn't invest in that 401k 20 years ago, you have nothing to take out now.
Yes. But I know that a lot of women can feel guilty about taking time for themselves, especially women who have had children, because they're so used to caring for others and thinking about everybody else first before themselves. And suddenly it gets to a time when they're hitting menopause and their children are growing up and it's like, oh, wow, they're putting more intention, have more time towards themselves and what they want to do in this next cycle of their lives. And that's when guilt can come up because they're not used to focusing on themselves.
It's a balance between giving your family the care they need and giving yourself the care you need. But part of being a very good example as a mother and as a woman is showing your children that you don't come last.
Mm-hmm.
That, because they're going to be better adults. Those sons are going to be better fathers when they give their wives a chance to hold their boundaries. And those daughters are going to be better women when they learn from their mother that, yes, I have to say no sometimes because I have to get my workout in.
Such a good point. Lead by example. And
Yeah.
the thing is, just like I was saying with the lady that you talked about, taking time off from her work for her exercise, is that because she's doing that, she's showing up as her best self. And if you're taking time off from your family to focus on yourself, one way I think of dealing with any guilt that might come up is to know that actually by doing this, you're going to be a better mum, you're going to be a better wife, you're going to be
exactly,
you're going to be showing up, as your best self.
Yeah. And like I struggle sometimes with working too much. When you're an entrepreneur and you want to get things just right and you're working on that program to get it just right, my problem can be like stopping work at, the end of the day. And I have to just say, you know what, there's nothing that can't wait till tomorrow. My family's home now. Let's go, do a little food prep together, enjoy a little dinner. Maybe we'll go for a walk. Maybe we'll, just hang out around the fireplace after dinner, whatever, and that can be the same thing, just turning it off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, I have one more question for you before I want to find out about how you can help all of our listeners. So, what do you think puts people off about exercise, and how do you think that they can overcome those obstacles?
I don't know if there's any one thing. I think there's a lot of misconception about, no pain, no gain. Not every workout has to be the hardest workout ever, and I think people need to know that. And also, and this is something that in my gym, my studio, I make sure people know they're the boss of their workout. I'm there to guide them. If they don't feel right, or if something is scary, like I think a lot of people won't do it because they're afraid. And so my attitude is, let's come in. I'm a little bit of a hand holder. Let's make sure that you're always in control. Maybe we are doing a timed workout where we have a timed rest, but if you're still tired at the end of the rest, guess what? You can choose to start later. Mm-hmm. And once people understand that they're in control, and they should be at a place where they feel like they're in control. If they're not, they need to find a new place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I think once people understand, you can be consistent and still be different. And what I'm saying is, you can arrive and show up and do your workout consistently with 100% focus, but maybe on Monday it's a very, very strenuous workout, and maybe on Wednesday it's more moderate, and maybe on Friday it's more light, and then maybe it goes back to being strenuous, so it's not always going to be the hardest workout of the week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Once people learn that, and I try to give them a lot of reassurance, like it doesn't have to be that way.
Mm-hmm. I love your, respectful and your nurturing approach to exercise, because menopause is stressful enough without feeling like we've got some sergeant major screaming at us and pushing us beyond our limits. And, I love the way you talk about being a hand holder, and that they're in control. And, it's all about nurturing and respecting and listening to your body. I love the way you approach this, Judy.
Yeah, and I think we should, and I ask people at the beginning of the workout, like this morning, especially, it was a Monday, I'm like, welcome back, everyone. How are you feeling? Does anyone have anything that feels a little off this morning? And, if you can let me know privately if you want, and then we'll provide some modifications for you today if you need that. Sometimes they just need a longer warm-up on Mondays, or early in the morning. Sometimes the morning group definitely needs a longer warm-up than the later in the day groups.
Mm-hmm. Well, Judy, I know that you have your own gym actually in New York, but I would love to hear, if maybe there are people listening that are from your area. So I'd love if you would like to talk about what you offer. But I know that you also have some online programs as well that would be of interest to people who maybe don't even live in the States or anywhere near you, New York.
Yeah, well, we talked about this before, since I'm not bilingual, the only requirement is that you understand American English. But
Yes.
you could be anywhere in the world. So my online membership is a membership program where I'll help you get set up with a gym, and then you can access the member section of the website, and you can tune in to live workouts, or you can access the full workout library and do your workout. So basically you're having me as your trainer on your screen. So you would take your tablet or your phone, or if you're at home and you have an Apple TV, you could watch on Apple TV. So you would just head over to the membership portal. At the beginning of every workout, I explain the equipment. And so it's like you're working out with me in person, except you're right on screen. And so I record 3 live workouts a week. So there's 3 opportunities weekly to do a live workout. And then when those workouts are done, they get uploaded and they go into our workout library, which is available for in-person and online members. So the in-person people really like it too, because when they go on vacation, they can take me with them.
Mm-hmm. Good.
And then I also do some one-on-one coaching, which is incorporates more of a healthy lifestyle living, and I know you do nutrition too. I will troubleshoot nutrition and just how to put it all together. And we cover motivation and worthiness quite a bit, and boundaries.
Mm-hmm. Good. Very important, as we found out.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're basically a personal trainer for someone. So if somebody's, for example, listening from the UK or elsewhere in America or somewhere else in the world, you're basically their personal trainer. They can access your videos online. Do they need to join a gym, or is this stuff that they can do at home?
They could set up a home gym with some basic equipment if they wanted to, if they did not want to work outside the home, and I actually have a blog on that too, that they can look up how to set up your home gym. But if they wanted to go to a gym, they could do that as well. And there's one more thing I wanted to talk about that I do with exclusive to my members, and it's something called Form Check Friday. So, we've talked a lot about having proper form. And so if I'm not there with them, I can't see their form. So I ask them to make a video of any exercise that they're concerned about. And especially if it's a new exercise, just prop up that phone in the corner, shoot the video, send it off to me. And then every Friday I review the video. So that's what I call Form Check Friday. And I send them back a critique with suggestions for modifications or progressions.
That is just gold dust. I don't think...
Thank you.
I just don't think I know anyone else that does that. And that's so important. As you say, it sort of prevents injury. It makes sure you're exercising the right muscle groups. I think that's fantastic that you offer that, Judy.
Yeah, it's really fun. And I love when the videos come in and, it's like, hey girl, you've got, this is doing really good. Let me just see and I might even send another video back of me saying, all right, now try to do it a little bit more like this. And it works.
Fantastic. It's that extra bit of personal connection to you.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. So, Judy, I understand that you have got something really valuable to offer everyone listening today.
Yes, in fact, I do. So our membership program, what I like to offer during different times of the year, and we'll have this open for the next 2 weeks, is a 7-day complimentary trial membership with Grateful Fitness.
Yay.
And so, you can just for 7 days come in and get full membership. So there's 3 live workouts. And actually, we're going to actually have to start that on the 15th of April, just because I'm traveling the week of the 8th through the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, you'll be able to get access to the live workouts, the entire workout video library, as well as Form Check Friday.
Fantastic. That's amazing. And so how do they go about claiming that free week?
So what I would say directly is, because I'll do that manually, is they would reach out to me on my email with Judy at judyarazoza.com.
Okay. Could you spell that for me, Judy?
Yes, it's JUDYARAZ as in zebra, O, Z as in zebra, A.com.
Fantastic. And I'll put a link to all of this in some show notes, which I can put on my website, soulfulmenopause.com. If you look under the podcast section there, I'll pop that in the show notes there. I'm pretty new to podcasting, but I think I might be able to also attach it to iTunes as well if you listen there. So I'll put it in the description. Yeah.
Okay. So that week will be the week of April 15th, but they can sign up anytime, by contacting me.
Okay, fantastic. So if somebody's listening to this podcast, let's say, in 6 months from now, and we're now the 1st of April 2019, can they still contact you with a possibility of getting on a free 7-day trial at some point?
Absolutely. If they're a new person and they have never been a client of mine before, reach out to me anyways, because, I can do whatever I want over on that website. So I'll let you join.
Fantastic. Yay. That's so valuable. I think that's wonderful that you offer that, and they'll get a feel for you. They'll be able to kickstart, getting into a better exercise regime if it's something they've been putting off. I think you'll be a great kickstart to that, Judy.
Absolutely. And you can just head right over to judyarazoza.com or gratefulfitnessny.com, and you can just have a look over there. But also, while you're there, the website is a resource for midlife women. I cover blog topics that, we talk about motivation. We talk about all sorts of things that midlife women I even have a blog about losing my mother-in-law and, what it meant to me and just certain things like that, because we go through those phases in our life. That was a little off topic, but when that happened, I just really wanted to write a blog about it. So,
well, yeah. And, as I teach, nothing is separate. It's really important to look at the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and how they are all interconnected. So if you're going through some really deep emotional stuff in your life, or you've got lots of negative thoughts and things going on, it's going to affect your physical body.
Yes, it is. Yeah. And I think that's another thing about, something you teach your people and they can learn from you, is just learning to be in tune with what's happening. Why do we have a stomach ache? Right?
Yep, absolutely. Fantastic. You are a superstar.
No, I'm the mom next door who just figured it out. That's what I say.
Yeah, but I think your approach is so wonderful, and I feel that you've got so much to offer people. Is there anything else that you wanted to say to finish things off?
Just that, you are worth it. Every one of you listening here is worth it. And every day when you wake up, think of one thing to be grateful for. And every day when you lay your head on that pillow, think of one thing to be grateful for.
Yes. That makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
fantastic. Thank you so much, Judy. It was just so delightful speaking to you. And there's just so much fantastic wisdom of yours in here that I know people are going to be able to take away and start using in their lives to just feel fitter, feel happier, and to really boost their health. And as we talked about, preventing osteoporosis. And I think this is so valuable. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for searching me out.
Okay, so Judy gave us a lot of wonderful takeaways from this interview. So I thought it would be helpful if I summarized just a few key points that she made. Now, first of all, Judy recommends exercising 3 days a week and each session being no more than 45 minutes long. She says taking time for recovery in between sessions and in between your exercises during an exercise session is of vital importance from menopause onwards. To stay motivated, act like the person who doesn't miss a workout, and then that becomes your identity. Ask yourself how you want to feel afterwards. I mean, do you want to feel really happy and proud of yourself because you showed up to exercise? Or do you want to feel bad afterwards because you just didn't make the time for yourself? Know that your workouts don't always have to be hard going. Be 100% consistent. Show up every time, but remember that you're in charge. Listen to your body and do what you can. And if you don't feel like it, just show up for 15 minutes and then see how you feel. That alone can usually just get you over that resistance. Practice gratitude. Gratitude that you're able to exercise and that you have the ability to improve your health and well-being. You know, I use this a lot. If I find things tough going, I sometimes think, wow, you know, there are people in hospital right now. There are people at home that are suffering and would give anything to be able to get up and go to the gym and do some exercise. That usually really sort of brings me out of it and motivates me. When you wake up in the morning, think of one thing you're grateful for and do the same when you go to bed at night. Remember, start slow and gradually build up. Respect your body and listen to your body. Mix up your exercises so you're not doing the same thing every time. Judy suggests Mondays could be your toughest workout, Wednesday could be more moderate, and then Fridays could be light. And just adjust it to what works for you. Weight-bearing resistance training should be a vital part of your exercise plan for menopause and beyond. You need to be on dry land with weight in your hand, putting stress on your muscles and bones, and this is what can help prevent osteoporosis. However, overtraining, too much cardio, and eating too little can be detrimental for your bone health, as well as potentially causing other health issues too. Set boundaries for yourself. Stay focused on how important this is, not only to you, but to those around you as well. And when you take time for yourself, you have the opportunity to show up as your best self. So create that sacred time for your exercise and stick to it because you love and respect yourself and because you love and respect those who are closest to you too. And use the motivational tips that Judy mentions to help you stick to your boundaries. Learn from someone whose goals are your goals. Choose a personal trainer who knows where you're at, someone who's been through menopause and is specialized in it. So to get you started, go and grab that free 7-day trial that Judy's offering you. Visit her website, gratefulfitnessny.com, and send her a message and she'll give you that free access. And by the way, you can also sign up to receive a free video series on her website too. The video series goes in depth on the best exercises for women over 40, step by step, the right way without getting hurt. Now you can find a link to her website in the show notes for this episode. Okay, go and do that and let us know how you get on. To find out more about how you can live a soulful menopause, please visit soulfulmenopause.com. I'm really looking forward to being with you again soon. Bye for now.